So I just wanted to show you a quick demonstration of the new gradient feature in the Bevel Stack. We've now got a selector button here that we can turn on the gradients with. It will default to the original colour that you may have had set in a previous instance of the stack. And you can see we get two extra colours to play with. So we've got a mid colour and an end colour. It's pretty self-explanatory. I think most people know about gradients. There are a couple of little extra tricks we can do though with Bevel. First thing is we've got three colour stops here. So we can play with these. If we pick the mid stop, so that's going to be the point at which this mid colour transitions to the end colour. We can push that down. So we just got a little tip. We can pull it back up again. If we move the base stop down beyond the mid stop, as soon as it goes beyond the mid stop, you see we start to get a distinct line rather than a gradient. Then we can take it down. We can even bring the mid stop a bit down a bit further as well and constrain the gradient to the bottom of the bevel. But just for now, let's push the mid stop right the way down and let's click this gradient follows angle button. So that sort of does what you'd expect it to, such that the gradient then follows the angle. But I wanted to show you it with the stops adjusted, because you can make quite nice borders on the angle, and if you push it all the way, then you can essentially use the gradient like a border, which is something else that had been asked for. These are not integers, they are decimals, so you can get it really nice and tight if you want just an edge on your bevel. But let's pull that base stop back down. A few other things to note about it. If you're using it at 50% split, like as in the default, or you're using it at one end or the other for a straight bevel, you can do what you like essentially. By unchecking the gradient follows angle, you will get a flat gradient. The one place you shouldn't uncheck this is if you're using odd splits, and this is pretty rare, but if you're using odd splits, then it's going to go wrong, because when it's not following the angle, we're subtracting the gradient angle from the gradient itself, and the two sides aren't going to match. So you just turn on gradient follows angle if you really want a gradient when you've got a split that's not either 0, 50 or 100%. Let's just push that base stop down a bit again so we get a bit of a distinct gradient showing again, and then we'll just have a look at a few other things. If we switch it to vertical, we get a vertical representation. Let's just reduce that padding down a bit, and we've got the split. Let's put that back to 50 so it's nice and symmetrical. So exactly the same things apply when it's vertical in terms of making edges on the gradients and messing around with the color stops. We can turn the follow angle off as well. If we make the angle more extreme, you'll see this more easily. So let's make that 15 degrees. So now it's following the angle, now it's flat. Again, if we make a sharp line, you can see that very clearly. There it is, following the angle again. If we go back to our horizontal bevel, I'm going to have to take some of this crop off because I've put a load of padding on it. You can also think about making different double bevels, if you like, with this. If we reduce the top stop back and we get a nice sharp line, it's a bit like a big fat border, but we've essentially made a double angle. If the base color was white, of course, then, and we push it all the way down past there, then we've made a chevron, which you could do it with bevel in other ways, but that's a very quick and simple way to do it. So let's put that base color back to some sort of some sort of blue that looks half decent. A few other things to be aware of. If you start using inward angles, these use a proportion of the height. So your stops are going to need adjusting. The gradients will work, but for inward angles we're going to need to push everything. Which way is it? That way. So just play with them and you'll soon get there. So if we push the end stop back out of the way, and there we go, we've got our gradient. If we turn the follow angle off, it will be a horizontal gradient. If we're now on our inward and we make them face upwards, then these three stops are going to have to be up this end. So let's just try and replicate that quickly. Yeah, wrong way around. But you can see that, there we go, we're following the angle, so it's a bit more difficult to see. A bit easier to see if we, there we go. But you saw in there are some quite interesting effects that you can make by just playing with these color stops. So I'm sort of discovering as I go here, but that's the best way, isn't it? So things like that, for instance, you could do if you really wanted to. I don't know why you'd want to, but it's just easy to play with and see what you can do. We'll put it back to facing outwards but upwards, and then you see we've got a little splurge of colour emanating from the bottom. We can push it all the way up and replicate what we just saw the other way. So it's just a case of playing with these colour stops, and you can do all sorts of interesting things. So same rules apply. If you start going off with odd splits, you're going to get, you might want something like that. Could be an interesting effect in some backgrounds, I don't know, but not split, then we're going to have to adjust our colour stops to push it out. But odd splits, we're going to get weird effects. No matter what we do with our colour stops, we'll always get that vertical line. So really, unless you want to turn on follow angle, avoid odd split numbers. And that is gradients in a nutshell. Thanks for watching.